Hey everyone, this is Nick David with NDA Studios, and I'm here with Parker, and he's one of our past clients, so we're just going to go through a deep dive of kind of the work we've done for Parker. So
Let's do it.
let's go! Okay, so I guess we'll just start with tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do? Like who are you?
Sure. Yeah, I've been making videos on social media for years now. Ever since I was about 12 years old. Yeah, 12 years old, and I've been a full time creator since I was about 16, and I'm constantly in need of an editor or someone to help with production. I don't really have any full time employees. I have a couple people who work for me, project based or sometimes part time. Kind of depends upon where we are. But yeah, I mean, utilizing an editor or people in production is really helpful with everything I do with social media.
Right, right. So you create videos like long form, short form, like you also host and tell us a little bit about that too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been creating short form content for a while now. I started with long form content, but the thing is, with short form content, the market's a little bit easier to tap into, as some may have kind of already realized. It's very saturated. That's the only downside. If you want to kind of break through a little bit quicker, maybe the long form is better for you. But for me, I kind of realized that I really like short form content, and then because of that, Paramount Pictures reached out to me and they wanted me to do some stuff for Nickelodeon and Awesomeness TV. And so I've done some hosting with them, and I've also done some digital production with them. For I'm working the Super Bowl here in a couple weeks, so that'll be with CBS and Nickelodeon and all that good stuff. So I'm really excited.
Dude, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks, Nat. Thank you. Or
Yeah.
Nick. Sorry, thanks, Nick. Yeah.
For those of you watching this, went through a rebrand. Used to go by Nap, now it's Nick. Anyway, yeah, no, that's really cool. Congratulations again. Because I know you've done stuff with the NFL before in the past, right? So it's cool to see that relationship blossom.
Absolutely. This year it's a little bit different. Last year I did things for a page that I run. It's a Paramount affiliate. It's called On the Lot. It's a TikTok page, and we bounce around from movie sets to TV shows, kind of give a behind the scenes look on production and how shows are made. And so this year, Nickelodeon, like I said, I work there, and they obviously they know me internally, but they saw the work that I did through On the Lot and some of that content, and they said, "Hey, we want you to be our go-to guy for Nickelodeon in our digital media pages." So I said, "Heck yeah, I'm all in for it, and that's what I'm going to be there for."
So cool, man. Okay, so I guess so diving more into that, what kind of challenges were you facing before working with me in my company? And then, yeah, what kind of problems were you facing?
Sure, yeah, it's a pretty easy question to answer. I think a lot of creators could agree with me here. It's at a certain point you have to start delegating, and you don't always know exactly when that point is, but you'll have a bucket load of videos. You're just consumed with content, and you sit there and you think, I'm not an editor. I'm not very good at editing. I have basic levels of editing, but you sit there and you think, how am I going to conquer all of this? And it's definitely a challenge. And so that was the biggest challenge. And then hiring you, Nick, it really helped out because I was able to alleviate so much pressure from me. I had a certain quota of videos that I had to reach within a certain period of time. And you know what? Nick was able to help out. I said, what was it? I mean, this was over a year ago or coming up on a year. And I said, we got to do, I don't know the exact number, but 30, 40, 50 videos in 5 days. And these were short form, 15-second videos. And I was constantly filming while these videos needed to be edited and posted. And so that's when I went to Nick, and he was able to quickly bust out those edits while I was still filming.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Very stressful, but it was kind of cool to work with you on that project and see that go forward too. Because I remember also you had a couple of coworker creators on that job as well, and then they didn't necessarily have an editor as well. They were doing all the work themselves, and it seemed way more chaotic than it needed to be for some people.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I saw that firsthand, kind of seeing some other people who didn't necessarily have a team to back them versus me, and seeing kind of the stress levels of other people to see that. And it's like, man, we got to get all this content. We got to hit the deadlines because in creation, when you're working for certain people, it's like deadlines are really, really important. And sometimes that's very difficult to do if you don't have a team to help support you.
Right, right, right. Okay, so why did you decide to work with me over other video agencies?
That's a good question. There's a lot. I mean, just like I said with social media, there's definitely an abundance of editors. So I worked with Nick on. I used to do a show on Nickelodeon called Nick News, and oh, that's funny. I just realized
Yeah,
Nick News, Nick David. Oh my gosh,
boom.
what? And like I said, I have an editor that used to work for me part time, and he still does work for me. But he used to work for me a lot more on my YouTube channel. And a lot of the things that we did with Nick News was very travel related. We had to, go down to San Diego for a shoot. We had something that was in the works for a while that was off the coast of North Carolina.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that never came to fruition. I wish it did.
right,
And we needed a editor, a videographer who was able to travel. And a lot of people don't necessarily love to travel. They aren't, able to do it, whether they're not comfortable or whether they don't have the time, whatever that was. And at that current point, that person who I was going to work with didn't have the time. I wasn't able to make it. He was busy. And it's kind of like an example that my dad always makes. He says, Derek Jeter is such a great, stick with me here, but Derek Jeter was such a great shortstop, so great. But the guy who was right behind Derek Jeter, that second man up, the guy who was the backup, was also such an incredible player, but he never got that opportunity to play because of just how good Derek Jeter was. And if Derek Jeter ever broke an ankle, or something bad ever were to happen to him, that backup guy has to be ready to step up. And
right.
so what I'm saying right now is that, my videographer, he wasn't able to make it, but Nick was the backup. And I said, man, Nick, I need you to come down to San Diego. We got a piece to do on mutton busting, which is not mutton busting. What was the piece that we worked on? Oh,
So
Florida.
yeah,
Florida. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I said, Nick, we need you to come down to Florida and we're going to do this professional pillow fighting piece. And we did it. Unfortunately, that piece never saw air, which, there's a lot of things that happen. But, Nick did a great job with it, and he stepped up when I needed him because we're kind of on a time crunch. He traveled down to Florida with really no questions asked. And then literally like 2 weeks later, I said, Nick, you down to literally fly to North Carolina and do a piece in the middle of the ocean? He
yeah,
said, heck yeah, I'm down. Again, it never happened, but he was at least down. So that goes a
yeah.
long way.
I was looking forward to that one because I looked more into that. Apparently, there's sharks around the rig that we were gonna shoot at, and
Right.
that even never even occurred to me. But I was so stoked to do that. But
Yeah.
anyway, the pillow fighting was a lot of fun, and yeah, always happy to work with you for sure.
It
Uh,
was epic, dude. It was a great piece. It was great. I saw the raw footage. Unfortunately, just never saw the final cut. Just never happened. That happens a lot in showbiz.
Ah, unfortunate. Okay, so how was the experience working with me throughout the process of shooting the multiple projects? I know we worked on a couple other things. I think we worked on a YouTube video before that as well. Like, how was that process?
Working with Nick was great. He, like I said earlier, he always brings a constant energy to the shoots, and I think that goes a really long way because you can have long shoot days, really long shoot days, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-hour days,
Mhm.
and people are bummed out, they're tired, whatever that could be, but Nick still remains bringing that constant energy, and I think that's something that I really look for in people that I work with, more than just typical editing skills, but also just drive and motivation. And Nick definitely showed that throughout a lot of the different shoots. And I also think another thing that not every creator looks for this, but I like to, and that's like bringing up ideas, bringing up constant ideas. And I know I didn't look to Nick and the productions I did as a producer. I wasn't like, hey, I need you to create ideas for me. But I think little subtle ideas, we're shooting a little bit, we're shooting a segment, and Nick says, I'm just kind of pulling this up, but, Nick says, what if instead of you standing over here, let's put you behind here with a pillow slapping you in the face, something like that. And I think that little idea goes a long way.
Right, right. Yeah, I always try to like to provide feedback because you also are wearing so many different hats. Like you're in front of the camera, you have to think about the script, you have to think about the energy. Will this fit in the storyline of the edit? So like wherever I can provide extra input to make the overall story better, like I try to do. So yeah.
Yep, that was very helpful, very helpful.
Okay, so next question would be, how was the content, like the quality of the content I provided with you? Did it hit the mark? Like, how did you think about that?
It was great. Yeah, it definitely hit the mark. I mean, for the pillow fighting segment, I definitely saw a lot of those raw clips and it turned out really well. We had a lot of different really fun angles. And for people that don't know, I mean, we kind of touched on it, but since it is a professional pillow fighting league that's based down there in Florida and they travel all over, it's really cool. I still continue to do work with them. And it's insane. You just
Yeah,
imagine pillows flying at you in your face and it's an actual boxing ring, and the points are based off of headshots and 360s, and we wanted to capture it from a lot of different angles. And so we threw a GoPro right here on my chest. We may have done a head mount. I forget all the different things that we
yeah,
did. And looking over that footage and kind of working through it with Nap, and then we had a producer there as well. It just turned out really, really solid. And then, for the other piece that we did, just for I've worked with Nap a handful of times, but for that thing we did where I needed a whole bunch of footage in a whole bunch of time, the edits were great. It was really solid, and there was kind of strict rules to those edits that I kind of gave him with coloring and music and non-copyright things. That's always a big challenge, and I understood that I tasked Nick with a lot, but he was able to accomplish it. And like I said, he hit the deadlines, he hit the quota of content that we needed, and I forget what that number was off the top of my head, but he did it with ease, and I was really happy with it.
yeah. Cool, 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 cool. So, what sort of results did you get as a result for working with me and my team with the content we provided?
The results were great. I mean, the content performed really well. The views were solid. I think multiple videos definitely picked over 1 million views, which is always really great to see. I think we had several in the 100,000 range, had a couple misses, but you can never blame that on the editor's part. I think it definitely has something to do with it, but I think really that storyline and the meat and the potatoes of the video is what's going to really drive those views, as opposed to the cut most of the time.
Right, right. Okay, so
Wow, I just made a crazy analogy. The meat and potatoes as opposed to the cut, because you're cutting the meat.
oh, dude, do you rap?
I should. I should. I didn't realize what I did, but I'm gonna start saying that.
Yeah, I
That
think
was that was
you're gonna be
fire.
proud. That was clever. I like it. The last question would be, if there was anybody who's maybe on the fence with working with me and my team, with booking a call or speaking with me, what would you say to them?
Well, what I will say is every time I've worked with Nap, it's always just been one on shoot, sorry. What I will say is that every time I've worked with Nick, it's always just been on one-on-one between Nick and I haven't worked with anyone else on his team. But like I said earlier in the call, being able to delegate and having multiple people on your team when you're in that position to do so is only going to make everything much, much better. And now that Nick has a larger team for the content, I think that's only going to help. And so the reason why I say that is if you're looking for an editor or someone to help with production, Nick and his team is going to be the go-to people for you because they're able to expedite that footage. If you're giving them a time frame, they're able to get it to you within that time frame. It's going to be high quality content. They'll listen to your directions, and they'll also provide more insight. Like I said, if they have an idea, they're not going to be afraid to pitch it. And I think certain people sometimes may not always pitch that idea because maybe they're feeling like they overstep boundaries. But Nick's always providing, and his team's doing the same thing. And I think that your content will excel when you use people like Nick and the rest of his team.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And Parker, was always good talking with you. And hopefully we can work on some few stuff in the future. And I'm excited about the podcast coming up too.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. And I'll mention that too. I told Nick I would love his help on the podcast. And I'm not looking for his help necessarily editing, maybe down the long run, but what I'm mainly looking for, and this may be interesting to some of you guys, but I would just love his help on just production itself. I don't really necessarily know how to work cameras. I'm not very smart with like nice Sonys, and I'm not very good with microphones. And I know that Nick, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you're pretty much a genius with that kind of stuff. So I would love your help there.
I got you. I got you for sure. We'll get it running. We'll get it.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go. Well, all my answers came from the bottom of my heart. It's true, man. You're a very hardworking dude, and that goes a long way.
I appreciate it, Parker. Thank you. And you as well. Appreciate that.